Welcome to Sow the Seed, how to survive being poor in a smart world. That's the mission of Sow the Seed. I've been going all around the world every time I've done a video, and I wanted to come on tonight to just talk about what is Sow the Seed and clarify for the last time. I'm going to then continue to move forward with the mission and vision of this organization. But I wanted just to take a minute today just to talk about the three tenets of Sow the Seed and our mission. Once again, our mission is how to survive being poor in a smart world. How we do that is we have three tenets: education, economic empowerment, and political advocacy. As you know, poverty is a circle, I would say, where the person is in the middle and then or in the center of the circle, and then all of the things such as your economic power, your political power, all of those things surround it. So poverty cannot be tackled as simple as just finding a job and telling somebody that their life will be better just because they have a job. The person has to understand how all of those things come together, and that's what we want to accomplish with Sow the Seed, especially as we move into the 21st century and technological innovation and those kinds of things. The poor, or the lower socioeconomic population of the United States of America, as well as globally across the world, but we're going to focus purely on the United States, is going to be the group that is most impacted by technological innovation over the next 20 years. Okay, I believe I think they say 80 million jobs will be eliminated and not and those jobs will not be recreated. New jobs will arise, but the key question is will you have the skills to do those jobs? And that's why I want to make sure that we're talking about these things and we're making sure that the population that Sow the Seed wants to serve is aware. I've worked in workforce development for the last 9 years. February will be the 10th year, and there's it's an awesome population that I work with, but there's some key things that I've noticed that when you're in survival mode, which is what most of the individuals that I work with are in survival mode, and that's all they're trying to do is survive. They're trying to pay their rent, make sure their car doesn't get repossessed, make sure there's no eviction notice on their apartment door when they get there, and they're robbing Peter to pay Paul, including myself. I do have a support system that I often notice that many of my clients do not, so I have to acknowledge that yes, we all, like me and my clients, don't differ all that much, except that I do have consistent 2 pay periods a month, and then I have secure housing. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about where I'm going to get my next meal from. All of those things play a part in how you can handle the economic stress that comes with being poor. So I do fully acknowledge that, but I acknowledge that that as we move into the 21st century, it is going to be extremely more important that if you are in that population, that you know how poverty will change and operate differently in the 21st century as opposed to where it is now. The internet truly changed the game, and we need to talk about that and make sure that's just common knowledge and people aren't surprised by a lot of the things that you will see over the next 20 years happening. This is just my personal, forecasting with the 21st century. As we become more technologically savvy, what that translates to is that we are moving into a situation or into a world where we're much more data focused. We're not driven by people who work. It's going to be much more having the computer work for us. having robotics, algorithms that replace some of the common things that we take for granted that a human is supposed to do, like accounting. Even being a lawyer, they say there's a lot of repetitive tasks that even can be eliminated for lawyers. So it is not going to be just purely those that are at the lower socioeconomic level that are going to be impacted by the technological changes that are going to occur. But specifically when you look at lower socioeconomic class or communities, what you do need to know is that most of your jobs are repetitive or redundant in nature. You can kind of be on autopilot when you do many of those jobs, and a lot of those jobs will be eliminated and not replaced. And with that, that means you have to be very cognizant of that. As we all know, you need a paycheck consistently coming in. So you need to be prepared so that it's not a shock when you're like, wait a minute, I don't have a job. You know, what am I going to do? And especially because many of us have dependents that we have to worry about and we have to provide for. You want to be proactive rather than reactive. And so another tenet that we focus on is the economic empowerment. I've talked a little bit about jobs and things like that, but many of the jobs will move to a gig type style of job where there will be much more self-management of the individual in terms of, okay, if you don't make an effort to seek out work, there won't be any work for you. For example, when you're on Uber, you're competing with all the other drivers on Uber, but it's going to be based upon how did you market yourself? Are you reliable? All of those things, making the customer happy, will be vital to your job that you don't have to worry about now. I mean, presently, like say if you're a cashier, as long as you smile and do your job as well as possible, nobody's writing, great reviews about you. Now, granted, they always ask you to turn in those surveys, but you don't have, there's not that, personal branding and those kinds of things focused on many of the jobs that we do today. That will change to much more. I would almost like to say everybody's going to be an entrepreneur in the future, or a business owner. The business will be you, okay? And we don't have these conversations with everybody at every socioeconomic level. So with Sow the Seed, we want to start having those kinds of conversations so things are just natural and you're not caught by surprise. I believe in being strategically poor, not financially poor. And that is another key thing. I use that word poor just to grab the population that I want to serve. I want you to know I'm talking to you as opposed to just a general population, because a lot of times what I notice with many of my clients, they're so focused on trying to survive that they don't realize a lot of these conversations are meant for them, okay? And so that's why I'm calling out that population. And I also want to give that word, I want to give a different kind of power to that word. I don't want it to be a negative word, because in all honesty, I want to say but anywhere between 40 and 60% of the population in the United States of America cannot come up with an extra spare $400 or $500. And that's regardless of whether you got a high school diploma or you got a master's degree. So we are rowing in a boat together as opposed to a divided boat, okay? Many of us are putting up divisions that are unnecessary in this day and age. 10 years ago, yes, you could say, that division could be there. But really, in all honesty, when your company lets you go, it's going to let me go, you go, and everybody, every complexion in between. And so those kinds of things are not going to set you apart as much as they may have in the past, because it's going to be universal. A robot cannot beat out an African American and not beat out a Caucasian American. So some of those issues, we do need to continue to work on those as a group. But what you're going to find is that It will be much more a case of, as we move into a more data-driven society, as we move into more of a socially connected world, there's a way for you to connect to a community. You can craft your own community and start to make money off of that community. As everybody likes to call it, it's a tribe. And for example, with YouTube, lots of people are finding their own niche or tribe, and they've been able to then monetize that. And we're moving into a much more creative world where the definition of a job is going to be forever changed, and it will not be something where you go to 8 hours a day. And so we really, like I said, we want to educate that population to make sure you're not getting overlooked, you're not missing those kinds of things and not taking appropriate action because you're so focused on surviving. And I certainly understand that, and that's why our third area is political advocacy, so that we can make sure that our voices are being heard. Many of us don't think that it's important to vote or important to follow up with our legislators and let them know how important things are, and how important medical care is, jobs, affordable housing. We think, oh, it's not going to matter, they're not going to do anything about it, but you have a powerful voice. You keep this economy running, and if you're not working, if you don't have a place to stay, guess what? The economy eventually will collapse, because there's no people at the bottom that's going to keep it upright, I guess I'll say. Because yes, the rich are making the opportunities, but at the same time, they're not the ones spending. So if there's nobody spending, then our economy suffers. Of course, there's a lot more to our economy than that, but I won't get into that. But it is very, very important that we have a political voice, much more so than in years past, because guess what? We aren't going to have the distinction of a two-collar system. I believe we're going to have a unicollar. And so it's important that we are talking to our leaders, both at the state level and at the federal government level, to make sure they understand that we understand that, and we need, more training dollars towards what jobs are going to be successful in the future. We need much more funding towards education to make sure all schools are adequate in training our children. And then also just the whole notion of even medical care. I mean, it should not even, it's 2019. Why are we even arguing about whether healthcare is a right or not? But many of us are taking that for granted, that it doesn't matter, nothing's going to change. But I hope that through Sow the Seed and what we talk about technological innovation, and I think technology has a lot of opportunities for us if we can harness it and we can be made aware of it so that we can leverage it. So I do think that there's a lot of it, but at the same time, because of what I do every day and what I see every day, I know that if we're not paying attention, the technology train will run us over. If we are not getting involved or not engaged with it. It's either you get on the train or you get run over. In all honesty, that's where we are right now. And so that's why it's so vital that we start talking about these and developing a dialogue, so that no one is left behind. And I can't think of anything else, so just cut that off. But thanks for watching this video. I hope I've clarified what Sow the Seed is, what our mission is, what we hope to accomplish, and I look forward to many more videos where we talk about those kinds of things and we start giving tips, suggestions, having conversations about these topics around technology, about economic empowerment, financial literacy, and political advocacy. So see you next time.